Hi, everyone. Artistic Director Scott Spence of the Beck Center here again. And today we're going to feature one of our 15-minute musicals. Today's feature is a wonderful new musical called Monster on the Lawn. What a great title. And with us today is author, both music, lyrics, and book. And his name is Obed de la Cruz. And Obed's going to tell us a little bit about himself. He's right now in Brooklyn. But where do you go to school, Obed?
So I go to school at Stanford University. I'm a senior this year, graduating from the Theater and Performance Studies department.
Great. Tell us a little bit about your background as an artist and what made you want to write a 15-minute musical.
Yeah. So it's a funny story because I got into Stanford, or I decided to go to Stanford for mechanical engineering. And then as soon as I got to Stanford, I started taking all these film classes. And then I soon became just entranced in filmmaking. And I decided that I was going to be a film director for sure. And by sophomore year, I took a theater directing class. And then all of a sudden, it just expanded my horizons just to see live performance and to be able to direct it myself. And then from then on, I started exploring theater as an option. And things just kept rolling until everything that I had done before, from music to theater to film, all came together. And for some reason, musical theater ended up being just the focus of all that. So now I'm just kind of this conglomerate of composer, playwright, director, all this stuff. But right now I'm focusing mainly on the playwriting side and the composing side as I try to figure myself out as an artist and writer and all that stuff.
Wow, with all those changes, are you still on schedule to graduate in 4 years?
I am, barely, but yes, I am.
That's amazing. That is absolutely, you could make an argument to be an 8th-year senior with all those changes.
Thankfully, the theater department was nice to me, and things are rolling along somewhat smoothly. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, tell us a little bit about Monster on the Lawn. How would you describe this piece and what's it about?
Yeah, so Monster on the Lawn, let's see. It's about a 6-year-old boy named Ricky living in an unnamed town in Puerto Rico near the shore. And it tells the story of this boy and the day that he woke up and saw a monster just washed up on his front lawn. And the monster looks like a whale. And that's important because we live close to the sea. And yeah, we start figuring out this boy's life, living with his mom and living with his sister. And we only have 15 minutes, but we get to explore this boy's psyche and also just the things that happen that you see through more innocent lens that later on when you look back at it, things feel a lot more impactful.
Great. Does this tell a Latinx story in any way? Is that an important part of this?
So it's an important part of it, and at the same time, it's important because it comes from a cultural perspective, and it comes from, for example, he finds out that a hurricane's coming very early on in the musical. This doesn't necessarily indicate anything about being Latinx or Puerto Rican, but it feels relevant, and this came kind of from the psyche of someone who went to college and started college at the moment that Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico. So these things are just very fresh in my mind as I write this. And it feels like, even though it doesn't necessarily define the musical, it's important just for me as a writer to explore kind of the things that go through my mind when I think about being Puerto Rican or when I think about living in Puerto Rico.
It's especially exciting to know that this piece actually got some location shooting in Florida.
In Florida, and our actor just happened to live right in front of the beach, which is this perfect coincidence. But yeah, things just sort of lined up during production, which is super exciting to see in that rehearsal room.
So what compelled you to write this piece? Is there something specific that made you want to tell this story?
So it was actually a mixture of things. So I was right when the challenge got announced, that I don't even remember how I found it, but I saw it online, and I had just started taking this class called Making Your Solo Show, where the goal of that class was to write a solo piece that was 15 minutes long. Wow. And then at the same time, I saw a 15-minute musical challenge, and I was like, perfect. Now I have exactly the guidelines for what my project's going to be. And this musical was actually inspired by an illustration that I saw of this white whale on a front lawn. And I was just trying to see if I could piece together a story. Just I was if I was a 6-year-old boy and I saw this white whale, what would I do? And it just became a prompt for me until eventually just stemming from that solo musical, the constraints of a solo musical, I just built it until I could have this like sort of magical realism piece that felt true to like somewhat of my psyche, but also somewhat of the psyche of someone who's like not me, and someone who's like living far away from me. Yeah.
What have been the challenges in writing a musical that can only be 15 minutes long, but still needs a beginning, a middle, and an end?
You know, I had to write at least three really, really horrible drafts of this musical to understand what it's like to write a fully realized 15-minute short. My professor gave me one of the best pieces of advice, which was to write a 2-minute version of the show first, then a 5-minute version of the show, and then a 15-minute version of the show. And that helped me out so much because it helped me just see like what the core ideas that I wanted to explore were. And thankfully, after that fourth try, things just came a lot more smoothly and I understood exactly the story I wanted to tell. But it definitely humbled me those first few tries when I had to like perform it in front of the class, and kind of like learn from my mistakes what things work and what things don't.
That's fascinating. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
actually the guide to where you're going. Well, Obid, thank you so much for spending time with us today. We're very excited to launch 5 by 15 on February 12th streaming. And we all look forward to see what the end products of all of these look like. No one more than you, I'm sure.
It's been great talking to you.
Okay, thank you so much. Take care.
Thanks, Scott.